Engineers make the worst salespeople because we're about to tell them how they can save money in the cloud. Hi, I'm Tommy Hamilton. I'm a cloud sales specialist at Red Hat.
And I'm Campbell Vertesi, the Microsoft Partner CTO for the partnership with Red Hat. Now, Azure Red Hat OpenShift is a joint product from Microsoft and Red Hat together. We have joint engineering, joint operations, and joint support, and here we are together to show you how to use it to save you money in the cloud, so you can spend that money on your core business instead.
Should we go to the whiteboard?
Let's. All right, so here is the typical stack of expenses you've got in your on-premises infrastructure for running everything from infrastructure, ops, your license costs, to your big bang modernization effort, right? Because we got to move everything to containers before we move to cloud, of course.
Right.
So I think we can start at the bottom and let's talk about how some of these savings work out. So first of all, the easy one is infrastructure. On premises, you have to maintain your bare metal for about a 30% overhead of headroom, just in case of any load spikes and unexpected outages, unexpected needs for more capacity.
Right. You don't want to let the VMs go to 100% of what the hardware has, so you need to leave that headroom. Otherwise, you'd have an outage.
Yeah, that's right. And the other benefits that we get in cloud around infra are a bit harder to quantify because it has to do with things like the quality of the data center, right? No matter what your budget is like, realistically, very few companies can afford the kind of data center quality that a hyperscaler can bring to the table. Like the Azure data centers, consistency of storage and accessibility of storage and network interconnect speed. And all those things make a big difference in a clustered environment and let us achieve things like an uptime ratio that's just practically impossible if you're running it all yourself.
Safe to say most customers' core business isn't operating global data centers.
Right. No, nor should it be. Thank you very much. And on top of that, things like global presence, how many data centers would you need for that? But I think for the sake of keeping this simple, we'll just say that our infra budget is about 30% cheaper than what we had on-prem, just for all of that together.
That makes sense. Now, the next thing that we have here is operations. One of the advantages of moving to the cloud is being able to take advantage of those great native managed services. Even though customers still have database engineers, they want to use Azure DB. They still have storage engineers, but they want to use the storage managed services. And really, I see no reason why Kubernetes would be any different. And so here with ARO, if we're able to take the cluster lifecycle management, the care and feeding, doing zero downtime upgrades, et cetera, and if we're able to offload that to the Microsoft and Red Hat SREs, well, that's going to save a lot of time and also a lot of effort for operations.
It's true. No matter how good your ops people are, there is no way that they're as effective at maintaining Azure Red Hat OpenShift as the actual maintainers of Azure and the maintainers of Red Hat OpenShift.
You would imagine not. And, one of the nice things about this, too, is that it's backed by a 99.95% financially backed SLA. So not only do you have SREs that are managing all of this for you, but if something does go disastrously wrong, you have Microsoft, thank you very much, footing the bill for that financially backed SLA. In addition to that, we're doing zero downtime, rolling updates. We're doing around-the-clock security monitoring, all of those things, security of the platform and of the cloud. Those are things that on-prem, the operations team would have to take on themselves. Now those things are being pushed, offloaded onto Microsoft and onto Red Hat.
Mm-hmm. Overall, we see most companies achieve about a 50% savings on their ops efficiency.
Right.
So let's make the ops box about 50% size, and we'll keep a matching dotted line here. But wait, there's more. Oh, thank you. If we move up to the licensing column, move up to the licensing section, there are savings that you can get on your operating system licenses for Windows and RHEL, depending on the environments that you're in. Now, if you're using OpenShift virtualization and OpenShift in all of your environments, it's standardized, it is relatively easy to move those workloads around to optimize for your licensing benefits. It also makes a big difference, of course, to your data center management licensing costs, which can be extremely high compared to what you're paying for Azure Red Hat OpenShift in the cloud. And finally, it's all eligible on the cloud for your Microsoft spending commitments, which comes with its own 25% discount, depending on the size of your agreement, eligibility for enterprise discounts on top of that. So you actually see a pretty significant improvement in license efficiency. And we see between a 50 and 70% reduction in overall license costs.
And whatever the cost is for ARO, it's going to draw against their committed spend, their MAC agreement, and it also qualifies for all those different funding incentives that the customer already has that they enjoy for the other Azure native services, right?
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
Can we talk about modernization, though? I mean, this is a huge piece of the pie.
Yeah, absolutely. When customers are thinking about moving to the cloud, a lot of their focus is on modernization. So it's natural that this is where a lot of the attention and a lot of the effort is being directed. Now, when we think about modernization, one of the things that I thought was an interesting stat is that every year there's 8,760 hours. But in a 40-hour work week, there's only 2,080 hours.
So you're saying when my kids say it's a long time till Christmas, I should tell them to count work days?
That's what I do.
It sounds like a really good tactic. I don't see how it works in this video, though.
So the point is, if less than 25% of all the hours in a year are business hours, how busy could these virtual machines be 24/7, 365? And so one of the aspects of modernization that we can help customers with right off the bat is with what we call dynamic right sizing. So think of it this way. Inside of Azure, there's very specific form factors, 4 vCPUs, 8 vCPUs, 16 vCPUs. Well, what if a customer has a virtual machine that needs 3 vCPUs and 5 gigs of RAM? If it doesn't perfectly match into the form factor that Azure provides, they're going to be wasting at least some of what they're assigning to the VMs, right?
And of course, in OpenShift virtualization, you can totally customize your virtual machine size. So you could have, instead of the big block, you could have whatever crazy custom resource allocation you need for your workloads.
Exactly. And so that's going to give the customer more efficiency because they're not providing resources to the VM that they know that it's not going to use. On top of that, when we think about, again, the fact that there's only 25% business hours in a year, what are the odds that the VMs are at 100% utilization at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday?
Actually, I've seen some reporting about post lift and shift, post right sizing your workloads. Most enterprises, they're sitting at still 70 to 80% idle on their VMs.
Right. And it makes sense because these systems have to be up and running 24/7 in case someone wants to log in at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. But the reality is that most of the virtual machines are sitting there doing nothing. And so on-prem customers traditionally solve for this problem using hardware overcommit. And with Vert on ARO, we have the ability to give similar density benefits to the customer, basically just running a bunch of their smaller VMs on top of ARO, being able to run more densely. And that's going to improve the customer's cost spending efficiency as well.
So wait a minute, that actually comes back to our infra efficiency that you can be operating, at least we can take a bite out of that 70-ish%, 80-ish% of idle. Let's cut that even further then.
Absolutely. It's part of the natural course of modernizing applications. When you think about it, when VMs go from VMs to containers, they schedule very efficiently. They run very densely on the underlying servers. And so naturally, the amount of compute that you assign to each application traditionally goes down. Well, here, because inside of Vert on ARO, the VM is running inside of a container, we're sort of able to take advantage of some of those benefits without actually migrating the VM to become a container.
Right. You don't have to scale all the way to zero to start seeing huge cost benefits.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one of the other advantages when we're talking about modernization is this concept of uplift and shift. So, customers like lift and shift because it moves them very quickly. They're able to go from on-prem over to the cloud, and they're able to hit their, migration deadlines very easily. One of the disadvantages, though, is that at the end of the day, the VM is still running on this other platform with the exact same feature functionality. So what we like to talk about instead of lift and shift is we talk about uplift and shift. And the idea is that when you take the VM and you drop it on top of Vert on Arrow, because it's technically running in a container, it gets certain benefits of a container just because it's running on this platform.
Right. You can use any of the huge ecosystem of Kubernetes native management tools and ops tools for your VM workloads as well.
Absolutely. So out of the box, when the VM is running on the platform, you can get things like advanced monitoring, telemetry, certain security efficiency gains.
I've got to switch to iconography over here because that's a lot of benefits all at once. Let's say monitoring, we can do some binoculars. Keep going though. Don't have to call them all out.
And in addition to being able to get these sort of uplift and shift features, we also have this concept of digital retrofitting, which is when you think about why customers take VMs and move them into containers, it's so that they can give them these advanced features from these tools in the CNCF community. One of the things that we can do, again, because the VM's running inside of a container, is we can sort of bolt onto the side of these VMs features like, for example, Istio. We have a demo where we take, old Windows VMs, 2008 servers, we put them into Vert on Arrow, and then we wrap them in a service mesh. So with these old legacy VMs, we're able to tell things like how many requests per second is the application getting? What's the request response time? Are all of the requests succeeding or are they failing? And what this does is
that's usually your application monitoring. So that's got to save you money on that, right?
Well, right. And also, this is giving you a lot of the feature functionality that frankly customers are rewriting their .NET apps and also replatforming them to containers in order to take advantage of.
So you get a lot of those Kubernetes benefits just on day one before you even looked inside your VMs.
Right. Just by running them on top of the platform, they're going to get certain feature benefits. And then once they're on top of the platform, you have the ability to bolt to the side a bunch of these great cloud native tooling.
That's great. And we haven't even got to what people usually think about with modernize, right?
We haven't even talked about the application.
And this is one of my favorite things, is that you can take these monolithic VMs and you can containerize gradually, because in the end, your operations tooling is all the same.
Right.
So you're managing the workload the same way. You modernize as it makes sense into containers. And what I love is when I see customers get these sort of cross-cutting matrix benefits. One application way over here, they containerize their MySQL database, and that can become your standard MySQL container. And all of a sudden, you've now containerized a chunk of all of your workloads, for example. And so what it means is you can take that big modernized bucket, and you can spread it out over time. Over several years, because the benefits, 70-80% of the benefits of moving to a Kubernetes-based system are already there.
Yeah, some of these features that they were hoping to get with modernization, they got just by the fact that they're running on top of the Vert on Arrow platform. Some other of the benefits they got with digital retrofitting, and then maybe the customer decides, well, that's good enough for this application. I don't actually need to modernize this one. And then these ones, let's not forget, underneath the hood, this isn't just a cost savings platform. This is an application platform. OpenShift is designed to build these modern applications. And so these VMs are going to be put on the path to modernization.
That makes a lot of sense. Let's go back to the studio.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this video about how to pay less money to Red Hat.
Wait, I thought this video was about how to pay less money to Azure.
Oh, remember the intro? Azure Red Hat OpenShift is a joint product from both companies.
All right, well, either way, let's get out of here before anybody finds this thing.
Yeah, good idea.